Hi again. My name's Casey Kasem, and this is American Top 40. Welcome to our weekly countdown of the 40 best-selling songs in the USA. Last week, we were counting down the 40 biggest hit makers of the past 5 years. This week, it's right back to our regular countdown and 6 exciting new songs on the chart. So let's hear them.
Number 40.
Here's a group that debuts at number 40 with a song called I'll Be Around. They're the Spinners, and I can remember seeing them way back there in 1964 when they worked with Marvin Gaye. They deserve what they're getting. They paid a lot of dues. Their hit song, I'll Be Around, debuting at number 40. The Spinners. The 40th best-selling song in the USA this week in American Top 40 by The Spinners, I'll Be Around.
The hits from coast to coast.
Now, the current hit by the Detroit vocal group, who will have to change their name on the label if they want to release the record in Great Britain, which is exactly what they had to do 2 years ago with their big hit, It's a Shame. The group is The Spinners, and here's the story. In 1970, after It's a Shame did so well in the American charts, their record company got set to release it in the United Kingdom. But they found that there was a British group called The Spinners. So, to avoid confusion and possible legal hassles, the group changed their name to the Motown Spinners because they were recording for Motown. Well, with this current hit, if they want to release it in Britain, once again they'll have to use a different name on the label. But a different name, because they now record for Atlantic Records. At number 5 this week, here are the Spinners. There's America's number 1 soul song for the 5th consecutive week. And number 5 on the Billboard pop charts this week, moving up 2. The Spinners with I'll Be Around.
The hits from coast to coast.
Radio stations around the world every week. KIVM, Liui, Kauai, Hawaii. KOZE, Lewiston, Idaho. KVSF, Santa Fe, New Mexico. KDMS, El Dorado, Arkansas. Hong Kong Commercial Broadcasting. Now, at number 12, moving up 1 notch this week, the number 1 best-selling soul song in the USA, One of a Kind.
As we continue the countdown, I'd like to welcome 3 new members to the AT40 family of stations this week. WILQ-FM, Williamsport, Pennsylvania, WAAY, Huntsville, Alabama, and 2UW, Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. And if you're hearing American Top 40 for the first time, well, my name's Wink Martindale for Casey Kasem, who's vacationing this week. And welcome to our weekly countdown of the 40 most popular songs in America.
Number 13.
The Spinners started as a high school group in Ferndale, Michigan. The year was 1955. Back then, they called themselves, of all things, the Domingos, a name they chose from a map. But you can almost bet that the name Spinners wasn't taken from a map. I sure don't recall any town called Spinner anywhere in the USA. In any event, their first chart hit was That's What Girls Are Made For back in '61. And so now, since you know what girls are made for, you can handle the games people play. Number 13 on American Top 40 this week.
Right, wrong, I just can't stop.
Up 1 notch over a week ago. From 14 to 13 today on AT40, The Spinners and Games People Play.
American Top 40.
Now on American Top 40, the current hit by the 5-man vocal group who recently met one morning at Los Angeles Airport to catch a flight for an appearance up in Oakland that night. But the newest member, Philip Wynne, hadn't shown up. They waited and waited as long as they could. Then they had to take off without him. And they weren't too happy about it. Well, just before showtime, the missing member arrived with a big grin on his face. And the other 4 naturally wanted to know why he'd missed the flight. And Philip explained that the night before, he'd met a girl in Hollywood, hit it off with her real well, and took her to Las Vegas and married her. And was it okay with them? Well, it was. And I think that during their performance that night, the love songs in their repertoire probably took on a little extra meaning, like the one that's number 7 this week. Here are the Spinners. 6th consecutive week in the top 10 for the Spinners with Could It Be I'm Falling in Love. Next, the singing group whose career began when they won an amateur talent contest, but lost the prize.
Kisses coast to coast.
American Top 40 is heard coast to coast and around the world on great radio stations like KBYR in Anchorage, Alaska, KFAR, Fairbanks, Alaska, KINY, Juneau, Alaska, and Hong Kong Commercial Broadcasting. At number 4 this week, a tune that's been in the top 10 for 4 consecutive weeks by the Spinners. Could It Be I'm Falling in Love?
American Top 40.
Based on Billboard's hits spanning the last 3 decades, these are the 40 biggest longevity leaders, the triathlon of rock and roll.
Number 24.
Here's a singing group whose career began back in the 1950s when they called themselves the Domingos. They entered a local talent show in their hometown, Detroit. First prize, a plaque, and some cash. They thought their performance was a disaster. They tripped over microphone wires, they bumped into each other, they just couldn't get their act together. They figured they hadn't won anything. So they got in their car and they headed for home. Well, while they were driving home, they flipped on the car radio just in time to hear a disc jockey announce their names as first place winners. They turned the car around quickly, rushed back to the theater to find that some other group claiming to be them had walked off with their winnings. Well, these losing winners stuck together and went on to bigger stakes, hitting the charts for the next 3 decades. The Domingos became the Spinners. Here's their 1980s number 4 smash, Cupid. Cupid, the Spinners, with one of 16 top 40 hits that ranked them at number 24 in our triathlon of rock and roll. The Detroit vocal group hit in this decade and in the 60s and 70s. From Hollywood, I'm Casey Kasem on an AT40 special.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
This is Casey in Hollywood, and now I have the latest in a string of big hits by a vocal group who were so unsuccessful when they were with Motown that the company gave them jobs in the shipping department and as chauffeurs for the established Motown stars. In 8 years with Motown, the group's biggest hit was a song called It's a Shame, written and produced for them in 1970 by Stevie Wonder. It peaked at a very respectable number 14, but it wasn't enough to satisfy either them or Motown. So in 1971, Billy Henderson, Purvis Jackson, Bobby Smith, and Henry Fambraugh decided to try their luck elsewhere. They added Philip Wynne to the group and signed with Atlantic Records. Atlantic put them in the hands of producer Thom Bell, and the chemistry was dynamite. Their first release in the summer of 72 was a number 3 smash. Their second release a few months later was a number 4 smash. Since then, they've had 10 more top 40 singles and 5 hit albums. Ah, the lean years are over. No more shipping rooms and chauffeuring for the group who call themselves the Spinners. They're the ones who get chauffeured now, and it's their records that are getting shipped. Like their latest hit, the Rubber Band Band, at number 30 this week, the Spinners. The Spinners, with the song that's older than any other in the countdown, has been around for 17 big weeks. Went up to number 2, now is at number 30, the Rubber Band Man.